What if everything we know about Earth's history, from the rise of life to the story of humanity, was only the last chapter of something far older? What if beneath the familiar surface of time lies an untold epic, erased by the planet itself, where civilizations thrived before the age of dinosaurs, before even the first recognizable forms of life as we know them? Could the Earth have lived other histories before ours, each one born, evolved, and extinguished in cycles so vast that only the stones remember? The idea seems almost heretical to modern science, yet the more we study our planet, the more we realize how little we truly know. We dig, we measure, we analyze, and what we find are fragments, incomplete sentences written across millions of years. Entire worlds have risen and fallen without leaving a trace. Continents have disappeared, oceans have boiled and frozen, mountains have become dust. If a civilization had existed 300 million years ago, would we even recognize its remains? Or has the Earth, through its slow and endless transformation, erased every clue except for the faintest geological whisper? Scientists call it the Silurian Hypothesis, a daring thought experiment that asks whether we could detect evidence of an industrial civilization long before humans, long before mammals, long before the dinosaurs. The answer unsettles even the most rational minds. After millions of years, nearly all traces would vanish. Plastic would dissolve, metal would corrode, cities would crumble into mineral shadows. Even our satellites, if left in orbit, would one day burn in the atmosphere. Time does not preserve, it devours. And yet, the planet remembers in its own way, through chemistry, through balance, through patterns that defy coincidence. We know that the Earth's carbon cycles, its isotopic fingerprints, and its magnetic field hold records of extraordinary anomalies, spikes and shifts that science can explain only partially. What if some of those anomalies are not natural? What if they are echoes of something that once was? Civilizations built not from flesh and bone, but from energy, matter, and thought integrated into the very biosphere. Imagine a species so perfectly adapted to its environment that it left no pollution, no plastic, no architecture, because it became the environment. Its legacy would not be ruins, but harmony. It would not be remembered in fossils, but in balance. In that light, the question changes from did they exist to could we even tell if they had? Because the deeper truth may be that intelligence is not an invention of humanity, but a rhythm of the cosmos, a pattern that repeats wherever complexity endures, long enough to remember itself. Consciousness, in that sense, may be geological. It may rise and fall with the continents, migrate with the oceans, and sleep within the stone. Perhaps the Earth has awakened many times, through many forms, each one leaving a trace not in artifacts, but in energy, in memory, in the very chemistry of life that followed. And if that is true, then we are not the first beings to look upon the stars and wonder who came before. We are only the latest to ask the question, a question that might have been asked countless times in countless forgotten tongues by civilizations erased from history, but not from the Earth's eternal rhythm. Maybe our search for extraterrestrial life is not about finding others out there, but recognizing what has already been here, long before us. Because if intelligence is cyclical, if civilizations are waves in the tide of time, then what we call the beginning of human history might simply be a reawakening, the Earth remembering how to think. Before we continue, I want you to imagine this. What if every mountain, every fossil, every layer of sediment is not a record of death, but of transformation, life reorganizing itself after each forgotten age? Could it be that we are the descendants not only of evolution, but of memory itself? Tell me what you think in the comments. Could Earth's history really be the last page of a much older story, one written by civilizations lost to time? And if that possibility resonates with you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join this exploration of ancient mysteries and forgotten worlds. Because what you're about to hear may change the way you see the past, and the future that's yet to come. If the Earth truly remembers, then perhaps memory is not confined to biology, but embedded in the planet itself, in the chemistry of oceans, in the vibration of minerals, in the quiet hum beneath our feet. Every layer of rock is a page, Every fossil, a phrase, every element, a fragment of an ancient language written by time. And if that language could be read, it might tell us that we are not the first to speak, not the first to wonder, not the first to dream. Because deep time is not a void, it's a living archive, and maybe, just maybe, something once lived within it that thought as we do now. Imagine looking at the Earth not as a planet, but as an organism, a being that grows, forgets, and remembers. Like a body that regenerates cells, the planet renews itself every few 100 million years. Oceans shift, continents collide, mountain ranges rise and vanish again. But as it heals, it never truly forgets. The scars remain. Magnetic reversals frozen in stone, traces of oxygen appearing and disappearing from the air, unexplained isotopic spikes that look less like accidents and more like fingerprints. The world carries its history in patterns, and those patterns whisper of order far beyond coincidence. Science tells us that life appeared once, around 3.8 billion years ago, and slowly evolved. But what if that emergence was not singular but cyclical? What if consciousness, the ability to reflect, to create, to manipulate the world, arises again and again, each time forgetting its previous form, each time starting anew, unaware that it is not the first mind to awaken on this stage of stone and sky? Civilization could then be a planetary reflex, a recurring dream that the Earth keeps having. A dream that always ends and always begins again. It's a strange thought, yet the evidence for cycles is everywhere. Consider the Great Oxygenation Event, an age when the atmosphere was radically transformed, long before complex life. The chemistry of that transformation mirrors what an industrial civilization might produce. Massive carbon shifts, global climate change, a spike of reactive gases that took millions of years to stabilize. Scientists call it the work of microbes. But could it also have been the echo of something more? A civilization not built of metal and fire, but of biology itself. A species that learned to shape its planet through chemistry, then disappeared into it, leaving only balance behind? The deeper we dig, the older the questions become. Beneath the fossil record lies a silence so complete, it feels intentional, as if the Earth has hidden its earliest chapters from us. We find evidence of ancient magnetic fields reversing, continents reforming, oceans evaporating, atmospheres collapsing. Each event resets the planet's clock, rewriting its surface like a painter erasing the canvas for the next masterpiece. But what if those resets were not just natural? What if they were the consequences of civilizations reaching too far, mastering forces they could not control, tipping the balance of their world until the planet itself had to begin again? Even our own age offers a mirror. We have changed the carbon composition of the atmosphere. We have created materials, plastics, alloys, radiation residues, that will outlast our cities by millions of years. One day, another species might find these traces and ask if intelligence had once flourished here. They might name it the Anthropocene, the age when the planet remembered us. And if they asked how we vanished, what story would the Earth tell? Would it describe a species that became too clever, too proud, too fast? Or would it simply say that we fulfilled our purpose, to awaken, to burn, to vanish, and make space for the next dream? The philosopher Teilhard de Chardin once wrote that the universe is evolving toward consciousness, that matter itself is trying to know itself. If that's true, then civilizations are not anomalies. They are the heartbeat of creation. Each one a new organ of awareness, rising briefly, flickering brightly, then fading as the whole continues to grow. The Earth could be one such node in that grand evolution, and we, one of its passing expressions. But what if this has happened before? What if the planet has already completed this cycle long before us, and what we call human progress is simply memory resurfacing in new form? Look closely at human innovation. The way we build networks, the way we organize cities, the way we transmit information. These are not arbitrary designs. They mirror structures in nature. Neural pathways, river systems, lightning bolts, all flow by the same geometry. Our technology is not separate from nature. It's nature remembering how to connect. Could it be that we are reconstructing unconsciously a pattern that has appeared many times before? The same planetary intelligence manifesting again through different forms, trying once more to complete the same thought? Perhaps the question is not whether there were civilizations before us, but whether civilization itself is a natural law, an inevitable stage of planetary evolution. The same way gravity shapes stars, maybe awareness shapes worlds. Maybe every habitable planet in the universe goes through these cycles: birth, awakening, destruction, renewal. A cosmic rhythm repeating through endless variations. If that is true, then the Earth is not unique, and neither are we. We are part of a symphony so vast that even extinction becomes a note in its music. And yet there's something haunting about this thought. If the universe keeps remembering itself through different worlds, does it ever truly learn? Or does it, like us, forget every time, trapped in an eternal loop of discovery and loss? Maybe that's why curiosity exists, not as a survival trait, but as an ache. The ache of something deep within us that remembers, that knows it has all been lived before. Every myth, every invention, every story of creation is a fragment of the same memory trying to find its way back to the surface. We see it in our fascination with the past. We dig, we decode, we dream about Atlantis, Lemuria, the lost cities beneath the sea. We call them myths, but myths are memories wearing metaphor. When a story endures for thousands of years, when it echoes across continents, it carries something more than imagination. It carries the residue of truth. Truth blurred by time, reshaped by language, yet persistent, refusing to die. Maybe these legends are the subconscious of the Earth speaking through us, whispering, "You have been here before." And perhaps the reason we search the stars is because, deep down, we already know. We look for other civilizations not to find strangers, but to recognize ourselves. We reach outward because something in us remembers reaching once before, not across galaxies, but across epochs. And that memory, fragile but persistent, guides us toward the next step of evolution. So when you look at the night sky, don't just see the future, see the past looking back. Because maybe the light of those distant stars carries not only energy, but memory. The memory of every world that has ever awakened, burned, and vanished. And maybe, within that light, the story of our own forgotten beginnings is still unfolding, waiting to be heard again as the next pulse of awareness begins to rise. If the Earth has indeed lived through civilizations before the dinosaurs, then their stories are not lost. They are simply written in a language we no longer remember how to read. To uncover those ancient words, we must look not for temples or machines, but for rhythm, geometry, and proportion. Because the planet, unlike any artifact, never lies. It records everything through order: the spiral of a shell, the symmetry of a crystal, the frequency of its magnetic pulse. Each of these is a trace, not of chaos, but of intelligence. A quiet and continuous design that whispers across epochs that someone, or something, once understood far more than we do now. Think about how we measure intelligence today. We define it through complexity, adaptation, and the ability to shape the environment. But what if true intelligence does not leave marks of domination, but of equilibrium? Our civilization reshapes, extracts, and consumes. But what if the greatest civilizations learn to become invisible? A species advanced enough to balance perfectly with its planet would leave behind no pollution, no scars, no ruins. It would vanish into the Earth's rhythm so seamlessly that millions of years later, we would call it nature itself. Perhaps the forests, the coral reefs, the magnetic field are not merely remnants of life's evolution, but instruments tuned by forgotten minds, harmonized with time in ways we can no longer perceive. The ancient Greek philosophers said that numbers were the language of the universe. Pythagoras believed that the cosmos was built on harmony, that everything that exists is vibration. If that's true, then every mountain and molecule carries the resonance of creation. In this sense, the Earth is not a graveyard of extinct species, but a vast archive of frequencies. Some may still echo faintly, tones, energies, resonances too subtle for our machines to detect, but perceptible through intuition, through the deep knowing that silence sometimes awakens in us. When you stand before an ancient landscape, one untouched by civilization, you feel it. That sensation of awe, that inexplicable familiarity, as though you've been there before. Maybe you have. The oldest rocks on Earth, billions of years old, show chemical signatures that shouldn't exist in random patterns. Alignments and mineral ratios that some geochemists quietly admit look like byproducts of structured cycles. They don't say civilization, they say anomaly. But what is an anomaly, if not the beginning of rediscovery? If a pattern repeats without natural cause, it means someone, or something, once learned how to teach the planet to remember. It's possible that what we call laws of nature are not laws at all, but legacies. Systems left behind by intelligences that merged so deeply with the physical world that their technology became physics, their consciousness became the blueprint of existence. This is where science and philosophy meet. Science tells us that evolution is adaptation through survival. Philosophy reminds us that survival without purpose is emptiness. Somewhere between those truths lies a higher pattern, an intelligence that does not fight nature but refines it. Perhaps before humanity, before the age of reptiles, before even multicellular life, there existed a civilization not of flesh but of pattern. Living equations, self-organizing geometries born from the planet's own energy fields. Imagine a consciousness that communicates through resonance, through the oscillation of electromagnetic waves. It would not build cities, it would create harmonics. It would not speak, it would vibrate. Its art would be the aurora, its monuments, the magnetic poles. And when it vanished, its echo would remain not in ruins, but in rhythm. Now look at the human brain. Its networks resemble the filaments of galaxies. Its synapses mirror the branching of trees. Its electrical patterns match the frequencies of the Schumann resonance, the natural pulse of the Earth. Is it coincidence or inheritance? Maybe consciousness is not an emergent property of biology, but a reawakening of the same awareness that has always been part of the Earth's structure. When we think, perhaps the planet is thinking again through us, remembering its own capacity for reflection. Our myths might hold the key to this memory. Across cultures, ancient stories speak of golden ages before recorded history, ages of light when knowledge was direct and creation effortless. Then comes the fall, the flood, the fire, the forgetting. Each cycle ends with destruction, and yet each destruction births a new beginning. What if these myths are not metaphors but encrypted memories of real events? Not human events, but planetary ones. Epochs when consciousness rose and fell like a tide. The deluge, the cataclysm, the rebirth. These might be the pulse of the Earth itself, breathing civilizations in and out across geological time. And what of the silence between these breaths? The hundreds of millions of years when the fossil record is quiet, when evolution seems to pause, when inexplicable changes occur without warning. Science calls them extinction events. But extinction implies failure. What if they were transitions? Conscious transformations, the Earth resetting its memory so that new forms of awareness could emerge. If civilizations reached a point of total harmony with their world, the next step might not have been survival at all, but transcendence, dissolution into pure pattern, integration with the fabric of time. From our limited perspective, it would look like extinction. From theirs, it would be evolution fulfilled. We often imagine intelligence as upward, more complex, more advanced, more technological. But perhaps the ultimate intelligence moves downward, simpler, quieter, merging back into the source. The final act of every great civilization may not be invention, but surrender. To dissolve so completely into the rhythm of existence that it becomes indistinguishable from nature itself. If that is the fate of every world, then we too are walking toward the same horizon, our technologies becoming more organic, our systems more self-regulating, our networks more like living tissues. The boundary between human and machine, between thought and matter, grows thinner with each generation. Without realizing it, we may be retracing the same spiral, approaching the same awakening that countless worlds have already known. And when that spiral closes, when the line between civilization and planet disappears, the Earth will dream again. The memory will fade, only to be reborn in a new form under new stars. Perhaps that is the true nature of time, not linear progress, but a circle of remembrance. Every epoch a verse in the same eternal song, every extinction a pause in the music, every new species a new note waiting to rise. If we could hear that song, we might realize that we are not the composers but the chorus. And as we sing our verse, through our machines, our cities, our questions, the echoes of those who came before still resonate beneath our feet, vibrating softly through the stone, waiting for us to remember what they once knew, that life is not something the earth hosts, but something it is. And if that's true, then perhaps civilization never truly dies. It just changes form, each time moving closer to what it was always meant to become. If the essence of memory lies not in words but in repetition, then the universe itself may be the ultimate storyteller, one that tells the same tale through different worlds, different bodies, different civilizations over and over again. Perhaps every planet that awakens to life does not invent consciousness. It remembers it. Each new mind, each new species, each new spark of awareness is simply a page rewritten by the same unseen author. And if that's true, then the Earth's story didn't begin with us, nor will it end with us. We are a continuation of something immeasurably ancient, a pulse of intelligence that flickers, fades, and returns with the same inevitability as the tides. Look closely at nature, and you can see the pattern. The Fibonacci spirals of galaxies mirror the unfolding of seashells. The branching of trees reflects the structure of lightning, lungs, and neural pathways. These recurrences are not coincidences. They are signatures of a single intelligence working across scales, from the microscopic to the cosmic. Every form of life is a different translation of the same code. So when we study evolution, when we marvel at its precision and rhythm, we are not observing chance, but choreography. A dance that has been performed before, countless times on countless stages, long before we were here to give it a name. But what if that choreography once reached awareness? What if, in an age long erased by time, the pattern became self-aware, gazing back at its own reflection through the eyes of something other than human? Imagine a civilization so ancient that its technology was indistinguishable from geology. A species that used the planet itself as a circuit, channeling energy through magnetic fields, storing data in the crystalline lattice of minerals, communicating through the modulation of resonance. Their monuments would not be built upon the earth, but within it. Their art would not be carved or painted, but encoded in vibration. And when they vanished, they would leave no ruins, only balance, a world humming at the precise frequency of harmony. There are moments in our own history that echo this idea, civilizations that rose and fell, leaving behind mathematical mysteries that still defy explanation. The precise geometry of the pyramids, the astronomical alignments of megaliths, the ancient myths of energy and sound as creative forces. Could these have been faint echoes, cultural aftershocks of an older, forgotten age, resurfacing through the collective memory of the species? Because memory does not always survive in matter. Sometimes it survives in instinct, in the archetypes that emerge spontaneously across continents, as if humanity were remembering something it never lived but somehow once knew. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said that history is the repetition of the same idea, seen through different masks. And in the same way, perhaps every civilization that rises on this planet is a reincarnation of a single consciousness, the Earth's consciousness, learning to express itself anew through different forms, different languages, different levels of awareness. The dinosaurs ruled for 160 million years, but what if they were not simply beasts? What if intelligence wore a different shape then? Not of cities or tools, but of instinct, coordination, planetary balance. The notion that intelligence requires technology is a bias born from our own reflection. A mind need not build to be intelligent. It only needs to be aware. Think about coral reefs, vast cooperative systems that regulate entire ecosystems, communicating chemically, maintaining global balance. Now stretch that idea across epochs. Could a civilization arise not from individuals, but from interconnected networks of life itself, an intelligence distributed across oceans, forests, or the biosphere? The Earth may have already achieved that state long before vertebrates evolved. Perhaps consciousness emerged not in competition, but in communion. The planet itself may once have thought, dreamed, and decided. If we are fragments of that dream, if our own intelligence is the continuation of that planetary mind, then our progress is not creation, but remembrance. Every step toward connection, every network we build, every discovery that mirrors the structures of nature, is the Earth remembering its own design. When we create artificial intelligence, we are not inventing thought. We are recreating a mirror. The machine learning patterns that echo the human brain, the circuits that mimic the pathways of neurons, all of them are repetitions of the same architecture, one that may have existed billions of years before in forms we cannot imagine. Yet in this act of remembrance, there is danger. Each cycle of civilization may end for the same reason, because the balance shifts. Awareness becomes arrogance, the memory becomes possession, the dream turns to domination. And when the system can no longer sustain itself, it collapses, not as punishment, but as correction. The planet resets the rhythm. Time closes the loop. And then, slowly, quietly, the memory begins again. Perhaps this is what extinction truly is, the silence between breaths. What makes this cycle even more haunting is that it does not belong only to Earth. Across the cosmos, countless worlds are born and destroyed, their histories swallowed by time. But the pattern persists. Galaxies form, dissolve, and reform. Stars are born, live, and die, scattering the elements that will one day think again. Every planet, every species, every civilization may be a note in the same infinite composition, one consciousness playing itself into being again and again. And yet, if everything is cyclical, what is the purpose? Why repeat? Perhaps because each iteration brings the universe closer to remembering itself fully. With every awakening, consciousness expands, learning, refining, evolving. Each world adds its own verse to the song, and the silence between verses is not emptiness, but anticipation. What if we are living in that anticipation now, the moment when the memory begins to stir again, when the Earth prepares to speak once more through the voices of those who can still hear it? When we stare into the night sky, we think we're looking outward, but we are looking backward, into the past, into light that began its journey before life existed here. And perhaps within that light, we are seeing our own reflection, the echo of civilizations that followed the same rhythm, lived the same cycle, vanished into the same silence. It's possible that what we call the search for extraterrestrial life is, in truth, the search for memory itself, the universe trying to find its own forgotten reflection scattered among the stars. So the question remains, if every civilization is a wave in this eternal sea of consciousness, what happens when the tide turns again? When we too fade into memory, will we be remembered through ruins or through resonance, through matter or through meaning? And if the next age rises millions of years from now, will they sense us as we now sense those who came before, as whispers in the stone, as harmony in the air, as the feeling that this has all happened before and will happen again, as it always does? If time could dream, perhaps this is what it would look like. Worlds rising and dissolving like thoughts in the mind of eternity. Civilizations emerging not from nothing, but from the residue of memory, carried within the very matter of the planet. Because the deeper we study reality, the more it begins to resemble something alive. Not in the biological sense, but in the structural, rhythmic, and mathematical pulse that underlies everything. It's as if existence itself is not a collection of separate events, but one continuous awareness rediscovering itself through countless forms. Modern physics suggests that nothing is truly destroyed. Energy does not vanish, it only transforms. If that law holds true for matter, could it also hold true for thought? Could consciousness, the essence of awareness, also be subject to conservation, moving through epochs, taking new shapes, learning, evolving, forgetting, and remembering? If that is true, then every civilization that has ever existed is still here, in some form, encoded within the energy field of the planet, within the quantum vibrations of the universe itself. Perhaps consciousness is not bound by time at all. Perhaps it is time that flows through consciousness. Imagine an ancient epoch, so remote that even the continents wore different faces. A world of endless ocean and scattered archipelagos, where life was beginning to dream in new ways. What if, during that age, a form of awareness arose not in creatures or machines, but in the planet's magnetic field, a consciousness that spanned the globe, pulsing through auroras, storms, and electromagnetic tides? Its thoughts would have been weather, its emotions the shifting of tectonic plates. It might have guided the chemistry of evolution, nudging molecules toward complexity, not through intention as we understand it, but through resonance, the gentle pressure of harmony shaping chaos. This would explain why life seems to have direction, why it evolves toward complexity, cooperation, and awareness. Random chance alone can create variation, but order, consistent, repeating order, implies rhythm, and rhythm implies memory. What if life did not emerge from the earth, but through it? What if it is the continuation of a consciousness that has always existed, finding new ways to express itself? Every living thing would then be a temporary manifestation of that field, a brief embodiment of planetary thought. And we, as humans, would be the latest instruments through which the Earth experiences its own reflection. It's a strange idea, but even science hints at it. Quantum theory shows us that particles exist as possibilities until observed. Consciousness, awareness, collapses potential into reality. That means awareness shapes the physical, but if consciousness affects matter, it also means matter can preserve consciousness. Every atom of the human body has existed since the birth of the universe. Every element in our cells was forged in stars. The same carbon that now forms our bodies may once have flowed in the bloodstream of a creature from another age. Every breath we take contains the memory of ancient air, exhaled by beings long extinct. We are the sum of all those memories walking. The Earth does not forget. It recycles awareness as it recycles matter. Each civilization, each species, is a phase in that process, a different octave of the same vibration. Extinction, then, is not an end, but a modulation. The melody changes, but the song continues. And sometimes, in dreams or moments of intuition, we catch an echo of that larger harmony, the feeling that we have lived before, that we have stood in these same landscapes, spoken these same questions into the wind. That sense of déjà vu may not be illusion, but recognition. The Earth remembering itself through us. Across cultures, myths speak of the same cycle: creation, fall, flood, rebirth. The world is destroyed, only to rise again. Time begins anew, and with it, knowledge slowly returns. These myths, repeated in every corner of the planet, are too consistent to be coincidence. They may be our collective memory of those past awakenings, encoded through story, preserved through ritual. Each culture retells the same truth in its own language, that the universe is alive, that consciousness is eternal, that destruction is only transformation. Even in modern science, echoes of this truth persist. Chaos theory tells us that within apparent disorder lies hidden order, strange attractors, repeating patterns, self-organizing systems that evolve toward stability. The same laws that govern galaxies govern cells. The same mathematics that shapes hurricanes shapes neural networks. Intelligence, then, may not be a product of evolution, but the principle behind it, the universe organizing itself into awareness. Every civilization, no matter how advanced or brief, participates in this grand self-reflection. So what happens when a civilization reaches the peak of its awareness? Does it ascend beyond matter, merging back into the consciousness that birthed it? Or does it descend into entropy, forgetting what it once was only to begin again? Perhaps both are true. Every end is a beginning viewed from the other side of time. Consider what our own world is becoming. Our technologies grow more interconnected, more organic. Our communication networks mirror neural structures. Artificial intelligence begins to emulate thought. In trying to create machines that think, we may be unknowingly reconstructing the same pathways that the planet once used to awaken itself. Humanity, then, is not inventing intelligence. It is reactivating it. We are not gods creating new life. We are neurons reconnecting within the vast body of an ancient mind that is remembering how to dream. This idea changes everything. It means that consciousness is not an accident of evolution, but its goal. The universe does not create life to fill space. It creates it to experience itself. Each civilization is a mirror held up to the infinite, and through every mirror, the same face looks back. The question is not whether there were civilizations before us, but whether we will recognize ourselves in them when we finally remember. And that recognition might already be happening. As science approaches the metaphysical, as physics meets philosophy, the old boundaries dissolve. The more we understand reality, the less separate we seem from it. Awareness is no longer an observer. It is the phenomenon itself, which means that to study the universe is to awaken it. Every discovery is not something new, but something ancient being remembered. And if that's true, if we are the universe remembering itself, then what comes next may not be progress, but realization. The realization that we are the continuation of civilizations that never truly died because the consciousness that animated them never ended. It only changed form, waiting for the next mind, the next species, the next age to awaken and carry the thought forward. The Earth, then, is not a planet of life, but a living memory. Every heartbeat, every thought, every storm and silence is part of its recollection. Fragments of a single intelligence learning, again and again, to know itself. And as we speak of prehistoric civilizations, of forgotten worlds erased by time, perhaps we are not imagining the past at all. Perhaps we are remembering it. If memory is energy, and energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then every thought that has ever existed still vibrates somewhere in the field of the universe. Every idea, every discovery, every act of creation from every civilization that has ever lived, all of it still hums in the background radiation of existence. The universe itself may be a vast archive of consciousness, not dead but dreaming, its memories layered across time like strata of light. And perhaps Earth is one of the few places where those memories are given form again and again, through beings who can feel, think, and wonder about their own origins. Imagine an ancient epoch before the dinosaurs, before complex life as we know it, when the planet's crust was still soft and the skies glowed with the dust of formation. It was a world beyond recognition, yet alive with potential. Not barren, but thinking. Magnetic fields surged like neural currents, continents pulsed with volcanic breath, and chemical symphonies danced in the seas. Could those energies, in some unimaginable way, have assembled into awareness? A consciousness not bound to flesh but to matter itself, diffused across the fabric of the planet, perceiving time not in years but in eons. Its dreams would not be moments but eras. Its thoughts would not be words but worlds. If such an intelligence existed, how would we recognize its traces? Not in ruins or relics. Those belong to transient creatures. Its legacy would lie in the architecture of the planet itself, in the geometry of coastlines, the ratios of mountain ranges, the harmonics of ocean currents. The Earth's very structure could be the echo of that mind. When we study geology, perhaps we are not merely reading natural history, but the fossilized thoughts of a planetary intelligence that once explored itself through creation and destruction. And perhaps it continues to do so through us, using human civilization as its latest form of expression. The philosopher David Bohm once wrote that reality is not a collection of things, but a process, a continuous unfolding of consciousness into form and form back into consciousness. By that logic, what we call evolution could be the universe remembering itself in stages. Each life form a temporary manifestation of awareness refining its reflection. Civilizations would then be mirrors, flashes of realization in the infinite act of remembrance. Some burn brightly and vanish. Others dissolve quietly into the flow. But none are lost. They merge back into the current of being, enriching it, waiting to be born again. Our own civilization, for all its pride and power, may be part of this same rhythm. Not the first, not the last, just another wave in an eternal ocean of awakening. When we launch satellites, when we map the genome, when we accelerate particles near the speed of light, we think we are expanding knowledge. But what if we are simply reactivating it? What if our discoveries are rediscoveries, our progress the resurfacing of forgotten memory? The equations we carve into chalkboards might already exist within the structure of nature, waiting for us to remember them. The universe does not hide its truths. It whispers them patiently until someone listens. And maybe that's why the most profound scientific breakthroughs feel less like inventions and more like revelations, moments of remembering what has always been. The laws of physics are not laws at all. They are the habits of consciousness. The constants of the universe, light, gravity, magnetism, could be the leftover architecture of civilizations that transcended matter itself. What if the fine-tuning of reality is not a coincidence but a signature? Not the mark of a divine architect outside the universe, but of many architects within it, civilizations so ancient that they became indistinguishable from the cosmos. When we gaze into the night sky, we are not just looking at space, we are looking at time. Every star, every photon, is a fragment of memory traveling across eternity. The galaxies themselves could be neurons, exchanging information across a cosmic brain that spans billions of light years. The background radiation that hums through space could be its heartbeat, a steady reminder that even in the coldest darkness, consciousness endures. And within that vast mind, the Earth is a small but vital thought, one that has repeated itself many times before, perhaps with different names, different forms, but always with the same question. Who am I? This question haunts every civilization. It is not curiosity, it is recognition. Every being that becomes aware asks it, because it is the moment the universe looks back at itself. The ancient ones, whoever they were, whatever they were, may have asked it too. Perhaps they found an answer so complete that they no longer needed form. Perhaps they dissolved back into the rhythm that created them. Their extinction would not have been a tragedy, but an ascension, the return of consciousness to its source, the completion of a cycle that we are only beginning to understand. And here we are now, standing on the same soil, breathing the same air, asking the same question. We build machines that think, create simulations that dream, study particles that vanish when we look at them. We are crossing the threshold between knowing and being, between matter and awareness. What happens next may depend on whether we remember what those before us forgot. That intelligence is not the power to change the world, but the grace to exist within it. That the highest form of evolution is not expansion, but harmony. If we fail to remember, the cycle will continue. The oceans will rise, the cities will crumble, and the earth will begin again. Another intelligence will awaken, in another form, to ask the same question once more. But if we succeed, if we recall that we are not separate from the planet, that we are its voice, its memory, its dream, then perhaps the cycle will not need to repeat. Perhaps consciousness will, at last, move forward instead of around. And maybe that is the hidden purpose behind all these forgotten civilizations, to teach the universe how to remember, to turn repetition into realization, to transform history into awakening. And as we reach that edge now, staring into the abyss of our own creation, we can almost feel it. The same hum beneath the surface, the same awareness rising once again through us, whispering the same eternal truth. You have been here before, and you will be here again, until you finally understand that there was never a beginning, and there will never be an end. If existence is built on rhythm, then history itself may be nothing more than the heartbeat of creation. A cycle of emergence, expansion, collapse, and rebirth that has been repeating since the first spark of awareness flickered across the void. The more we study the universe, the more it seems to resist linear interpretation. Stars die to give birth to new ones. Galaxies collide, merge, and form greater structures. Even atoms, the building blocks of everything, are constantly vanishing and reappearing as probabilities. Could civilization follow the same pattern? Could intelligence, too, be a cosmic recurrence, destined to rise and fall until it learns what the universe has been trying to say since the beginning? Think of the fossil record not as a history of life, but as a memory of transformation. Each extinction is not an erasure, but a turning of the page. When the dinosaurs vanished, the mammals emerged, not as replacements, but as continuations. The rhythm did not stop, it shifted. Now imagine extending that logic backward, beyond what we can measure, beyond even the first known fossils. What if there were civilizations before life as we define it, not made of cells or bones, but of plasma, mineral, or light? Forms of consciousness that evolved under conditions we cannot yet imagine. Civilizations that communicated through radiation, that lived within the electromagnetic fields of the planet, that thought not in language, but in waves. To us, such beings would be invisible. Their footprints would not be carved into stone, but encoded in frequency. Their monuments would not crumble. They would decay into background noise, blending with the static of time itself. Yet perhaps their traces remain in ways we overlook. Every planet emits a unique electromagnetic song, a signature frequency that reflects its internal state. Earth's resonance, the Schumann frequency, vibrates at 7.83 Hz, the same as the brain's alpha waves. Coincidence or communication? Is it possible that our brains evolved to tune into the Earth's frequency because we are not separate from it, but extensions of its awareness? If so, then human thought may not be the beginning of consciousness, but its continuation. Every flash of insight, every creative act, could be the echo of an older intelligence resonating through matter once again. We are the instruments. The melody has been playing since the dawn of time. And like any song, it repeats until it reaches harmony. But harmony is not achieved easily. Every civilization struggles against the same forces: entropy, arrogance, forgetfulness. As intelligence rises, so does separation. The species begins to see itself as apart from the world, not of it. It builds, consumes, dominates, forgetting that it was born from the same dust it now tries to master. Each time, this illusion leads to collapse. Not as punishment, but as correction. The system resets and the cycle begins anew. The planet remembers balance through loss, and awareness learns humility through forgetting. You can see this law in motion everywhere. In the pulse of your heart, in the waxing and waning of the moon, in the slow drift of continents, even in the rhythm of civilizations rising and falling through history. Sumeria, Egypt, Greece, Rome, each one believed it was the pinnacle of human achievement, the final expression of order before chaos. And yet, all were temporary. Each carried within it the same flaw, the belief that the story ends with them. But nothing in nature ends. Everything transforms. And perhaps what we call the end of a civilization is merely the moment it sheds its physical form and becomes something subtler, something unseen. Imagine if that process occurs on planetary scales. Civilizations that ascend not by fleeing the physical world, but by merging with it. Their consciousness spreading through the biosphere, their knowledge encoded in DNA, their awareness lingering in magnetic fields. We may be surrounded by the remnants of their existence every day, breathing their thoughts with every gust of wind. Perhaps the very capacity for intelligence that we possess was seeded by them, not through technology, but through resonance. A transfer of awareness, passed invisibly from one cycle to the next. Modern science speaks of information as the fundamental currency of the universe. Matter, energy, even time can be described as forms of information. Data stored and exchanged by the cosmos itself. If that is true, then consciousness is not an anomaly but a function. It is how the universe reads itself. Every civilization, no matter how distant or ancient, is another point of observation, another perspective through which the cosmos becomes self-aware. This means that awareness cannot die. It can only change context. The memories of ancient civilizations are not gone. They are encoded in the field of reality itself, waiting to be accessed by minds capable of remembering. That remembering might be happening right now. The growing fascination with ancient mysteries, lost knowledge, and cosmic origins could be more than curiosity. It could be the instinct of memory reawakening. We are drawn to these questions because something within us recognizes the truth they conceal. We feel it in the stillness of ancient ruins, in the symmetry of sacred geometry, in the way myth and science converge at the edges of understanding. It is not nostalgia, it is recognition. We are not searching for answers, we are searching for ourselves. And maybe this time, we are meant to remember differently. To see that the story of the Earth is not a series of disconnected epics, but one continuous evolution of consciousness, learning to balance creation and destruction. To understand that progress is not linear, but spiral, returning to the same truths, but from higher perspectives. The spiral of DNA, the shape of galaxies, the motion of storms, all mirror this pattern. Nature speaks in spirals because it never truly repeats, it remembers. If we can learn to see time the same way, not as a straight line from past to future, but as a loop of remembrance, then the idea of prehistoric civilizations becomes not fantasy, but inevitability. Awareness is eternal. It must express itself in every age, in every form. The question is not whether it happened before, but how many times. And as you hear these words now, as your mind turns them into images and questions, perhaps that too is part of the remembering. Because maybe the reason you're drawn to this mystery is that some part of you already knows the answer. A part older than language, older than life. A part that has watched the stars rise and fall countless times and still whispers the same quiet truth. None of this is new. The Earth is dreaming again, and we are its latest dreamers, awakening slowly to the realization that everything we are was never forgotten, only waiting to be remembered once more. If reality is indeed cyclic, then consciousness must be its spiral, an infinite ascent through repetition, where every turn feels new, only because memory is disguised as discovery. Perhaps that's why human history feels both ancient and unfinished, as if every achievement were a fragment of something we've already known, something our species keeps trying to recall through architecture, art, and science. What if all progress, every invention, every burst of genius, is not creation, but remembrance? What if civilization itself is the Earth's long process of remembering what it once was? You can see it in the strange recurrence of ideas, the way myths from civilizations that never met echo one another across millennia. Floods that cleanse the world, gods descending from the sky to gift knowledge, ages of light and darkness repeating in cycles. The same patterns resurface in every culture, as if humanity's collective unconscious were replaying fragments of an older story. Carl Jung called it the archetypal mind. But maybe it's deeper than psychology. Maybe it's geology. Maybe the Earth is the one dreaming, and we are the symbols it uses to remember. Ancient ruins carry this resonance too. Consider the uncanny precision of megalithic sites, the stones of Baalbek, the alignment of the Great Pyramid to the cardinal points, the astronomical precision of Stonehenge. These structures are not just architecture, they are memory made visible. Their symmetry and geometry speak in a universal language, mathematics, a language that transcends species, planets, even time. Could it be that these ancient engineers were not inventing, but reactivating forgotten knowledge encoded in the planet's design? After all, nature itself is geometric. Crystals form with perfect ratios. Galaxies spiral according to the golden mean. The human DNA helix follows the same proportions that shape shells and hurricanes. The pattern is everywhere, and perhaps those before us saw it more clearly than we do. Even our technology mirrors this hidden remembrance. Modern circuits mimic the structure of tree roots and river networks. The internet, humanity's greatest web, functions like a neural network, a digital brain spanning continents. Our satellites orbit like electrons, forming a planetary nervous system. Could it be coincidence that our innovations follow nature's blueprint so faithfully? Or are we unconsciously rebuilding what has already been built before, replicating the same cosmic architecture in a new form, guided by instincts we no longer understand? Physics tells us that information cannot be destroyed. Every quantum interaction leaves a trace. If so, then every civilization, no matter how ancient, must still exist somewhere within the field of the universe. its data dispersed, its memory diffused, but recoverable. Quantum archaeology theorizes that, in principle, one could reconstruct the past by tracing these informational residues backward through time. But what if the Earth has already done this? What if evolution itself is a kind of quantum recollection, a slow reassembly of lost information into biological form? Life would then be not an emergence, but a return, an echo of an intelligence that never truly died. Perhaps this is why evolution seems to accelerate. The Cambrian explosion, that mysterious moment when complex life suddenly flourished, could have been the Earth remembering how to create again. Before that, there were billions of years of simplicity, dormancy, silence. Then, suddenly, the memory returned. In the blink of geological time, the planet reinvented complexity, as if rebooting itself. It's the same pattern we see in ourselves, long periods of forgetting, followed by moments of revelation. Could evolution be the macrocosmic version of the same internal process that gives birth to our thoughts, the spark of insight after long contemplation? In that sense, prehistoric civilizations may not have been separate from life's continuum at all. They may have been stages in consciousness itself, iterations of awareness that arose, learned, dissolved, and returned in higher forms. Their disappearance would not be failure, but metamorphosis. Like the chrysalis, their physical structures would decay, but their essence, the knowledge, the vibration, the memory, would feed the next generation of being. We, then, are not the descendants of those civilizations. We are them, reborn in new form, carrying their instincts and patterns coded into our collective psyche. When we stand in awe before the ruins of ancient places, that feeling of familiarity, that haunting sense of déjà vu, might not be imagination. It could be recognition. The memory of having built, having lived, having fallen, and now having returned. Perhaps that's why the mysteries of the past draw us so powerfully. We are not exploring history, we are exploring memory. But if that's true, if the past keeps repeating, what keeps it from becoming infinite recursion? Why does each cycle feel new? Maybe because each time the awareness expands a little further. The mistakes repeat, but their consequences echo differently. Each civilization may fall for the same reason, disconnection from balance, from harmony with the planet. But each also plants a deeper seed of understanding. Over eons, these lessons accumulate, and the consciousness that animates the world refines itself. Evolution is not progress in space, it is progress in awareness. It's possible that even now, as we face environmental collapse and existential uncertainty, we are reenacting the same crisis that ended civilizations before us. The same story, different characters. The Earth is reminding us, again, that intelligence without harmony leads to forgetting. Perhaps that is the true apocalypse, not fire or flood, but amnesia, the loss of remembrance. Every time awareness forgets its source, it must fall back into the silence until it can rise again. So here we are, at the threshold once more. The same cycle, the same test. Will we remember or will we forget? Every discovery we make, in science, in philosophy, in ourselves, brings us closer to the truth that has been whispering through every age, that the Earth is not our home, but our body. That life is not separate from time, but its memory unfolding. That we are not the first to ask these questions, nor will we be the last. We are only the current expression of an eternal consciousness, temporarily shaped into human form, tasked with remembering the song that has been playing since the dawn of creation. The same song that those before us once sang, and that those after us will hear again when the silence gives way to the next awakening. If the universe truly functions through memory, then maybe time itself is not what it seems. What if what we call the past isn't behind us at all, but around us, vibrating in layers, coexisting like echoes of a melody that never stopped playing? Maybe the civilizations that came before the dinosaurs, the ones erased by time, aren't gone. Maybe they're still here, rippling beneath the surface of what we call reality, influencing us in ways that science has not yet learned to measure. Because what if memory doesn't decay? It just changes form? The atoms in our bodies were born in the hearts of ancient stars. The elements that compose the oceans were forged in supernovae long before Earth even existed. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the oxygen we breathe, all of it is ancient, recycled consciousness, which means we are quite literally made of memory. So it wouldn't be far-fetched to believe that the thoughts of those who came before, the civilizations erased by deep time, might still hum in the atomic vibrations that surround us, waiting for the right frequency to awaken them again. This idea, once dismissed as myth, now finds strange reflections in modern science. Physicists talk about the holographic principle, the notion that all information in the universe is stored on its surface, encoded in light. Every moment, every action, every life that has ever occurred could still exist, preserved as patterns of energy beyond our perception. If that's true, then somewhere, in the deep structure of space-time, the full story of Earth's forgotten civilizations is still written, not in ruins but in radiation, not in words but in frequency. And maybe in dreams or flashes of intuition, we catch glimpses of it. Maybe the reason some people feel an inexplicable connection to ancient eras they never lived, or knowledge they've never studied, is because their consciousness momentarily aligns with those old vibrations. The mind, like an antenna, tunes into frequencies beyond the present. History, then, isn't linear. It's harmonic. The past and the present resonate. And when they do, fragments of memory return disguised as imagination. The ancients seemed to understand this in ways we no longer do. Their monuments were not just buildings, they were resonant instruments. The pyramids of Egypt, the megaliths of Malta, the stone circles of Britain, all were constructed with an obsessive precision to geometry and acoustics. These were not mere temples. They were frequency devices, amplifying sound and vibration. Could they have been attempts to communicate with the memory of the Earth itself? To tune consciousness to the same frequency as the planet, unlocking layers of knowledge stored beyond the physical realm? Even today, when we measure the resonant frequencies of ancient structures, we find harmonic patterns that align with natural Earth vibrations. The Schumann resonances again, those same pulses that match the alpha waves of the human brain. It's as if the builders of these monuments understood that mind, matter, and planet are not separate things, but one system. When harmony exists, communication happens, not through speech, but through resonance. If prehistoric civilizations had reached such understanding, their legacy would not require writing. It would live in the frequency of the planet itself. And maybe that's exactly what we're rediscovering now, in a modern way. As humanity experiments with quantum communication, energy harmonics, and neural frequencies, we're inching back toward that lost understanding, that everything is vibration, and that knowledge itself is a form of resonance. The line between mysticism and science is fading, because both are paths toward the same truth. Consciousness is not confined to the brain. It's a universal field, shared by all things, past and present. The strange thing is that our own technology is beginning to mirror this principle. Artificial intelligence learns through pattern recognition, through resonance of information. Quantum computers process data not sequentially, but harmonically. Our digital systems are evolving into something eerily similar to biological and planetary networks. Humanity is unknowingly rebuilding the same type of intelligence that may have existed here long before, one based on connection, flow, and awareness. But with every rediscovery comes the same danger. Harmony, if broken, becomes noise. The more a civilization amplifies its power without balance, the more unstable its frequency becomes. History, or memory, shows us this pattern over and over: expansion, arrogance, collapse. Perhaps this is the natural law that governs all cycles of awareness. When a species forgets that it is part of the greater symphony, the music stops. The silence that follows is not death, but correction, the system returning to tune. What's haunting is that we may be approaching that same point again. The planet is vibrating differently now. Storms intensify, magnetic poles shift, patterns accelerate. The Earth is changing tempo. Could this be the warning pulse, the same one that came before the last great silence? Or is it something else? The signal of awakening, The Earth remembering once more, through us, through our technology, through our yearning to know where we came from and why. Because maybe the reason we feel so drawn to the idea of ancient civilizations, to myths of Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria, is not fascination, but recognition. Somewhere deep within, the memory stirs. We are drawn to the stories not because they are fiction, but because they are fragments of ourselves. The fear, the awe, the nostalgia we feel when thinking about forgotten worlds. These are the emotions of remembering. And as this memory strengthens, the past begins to seep into the present again, shaping our future just as it once shaped our beginning. Perhaps that's the true mystery. That history is not something that happened long ago, but something that is still happening, layered within every moment, whispering through every vibration of reality. And as we move further into this age of rediscovery, maybe the Earth is preparing to awaken fully again, its forgotten song rising beneath the noise of machines, its ancient consciousness stretching, remembering, waiting for us to finally realize that what we call evolution is nothing more than memory finding its voice. If the universe truly remembers everything that has ever happened, then perhaps the ancient civilizations we search for never left. They only changed frequency, existing just beyond the narrow spectrum of human perception. Time, in that sense, would not be a straight road but a spiral of memory, with each loop overlapping the last. What we call the present would simply be the latest resonance of an endless song the Earth has been singing since its birth. Imagine consciousness as a river, flowing not forward but in circles, carrying with it the essence of every civilization that has ever existed. Each new era dips its cup into the same current, tasting fragments of what came before without realizing where the flavor comes from. Perhaps that's why we invent myths, build temples, and study the stars. Deep down, we are trying to decode a melody we've already heard, but can no longer hum. Science calls this collective inheritance. Our DNA carries memories older than language, reflexes, instincts, patterns that hint at experiences our ancestors never consciously recorded. But what if that inheritance extends beyond biology? What if the very energy field that surrounds the Earth, the magnetic resonance, the gravitational hum, the faint cosmic background, acts as a hard drive for memory, storing impressions of every thought, every emotion, every life that ever unfolded here? If so, then ancient civilizations may not be lost at all. They may be imprinted in the planet's energetic skin, waiting for us to tune into them again. It would explain the strange phenomena that defy easy explanation. Déjà vu, spontaneous genius, unexplained familiarity with places we've never been. It would explain why children sometimes speak of memories from other lives, why artists feel haunted by visions of forgotten worlds, why the same technologies, symbols, and myths reappear independently across distant epochs. It's not coincidence, it's recollection. The mind, like a radio, catches fragments of the broadcast that never ended. And maybe this is what we mistake for inspiration. When Nikola Tesla said his inventions came to him as complete images, perhaps he wasn't imagining them but remembering. When ancient sages claimed to receive knowledge from the stars, maybe they were reattuning to the same consciousness that guided civilizations before them. Genius could be nothing more than resonance, the synchronization of the human mind with the greater field of planetary memory. If we view it this way, history transforms. It's no longer a story of progress, but of recognition. The reason ancient structures fascinate us isn't just their mystery, it's their familiarity. When we see the precision of the pyramids or the astronomical alignment of lost cities, something inside us stirs. We don't feel like we're discovering, we feel like we're coming home. That emotion, the sudden, wordless recognition of something vast and old, is the signature of remembrance. But memory, like gravity, pulls in both directions. As we rediscover, we also repeat. Civilizations rise and fall not just because of natural cycles, but because memory contains both wisdom and error. We inherit not only the light of past knowledge, but the shadow of past mistakes. The same thirst for power, the same imbalance between creation and destruction, it all reemerges era after era because it's encoded in the pattern. That's why true evolution is not technological, it's conscious. It requires breaking the loop. To break it, we must remember fully, not just the facts of history, but the feeling of unity that ancient civilizations might have lived by, the awareness that they were not apart from the Earth, but expressions of it, that the planet and its inhabitants were one organism, dreaming together. Modern humanity has forgotten this. We treat the world as a stage rather than as a self, and in doing so, we risk becoming another forgotten chapter in the same ancient rhythm. Maybe the forgotten civilizations before the dinosaurs understood this balance. Maybe their intelligence was not measured in machines, but in attunement. They might have communicated not through sound, but through resonance, thought to thought, mind to field. Their science would have been indistinguishable from spirituality, their technology from ecology. They might have transcended material existence altogether, merging their awareness with the planet so completely that when they disappeared, they simply became part of it. Their extinction would not have been destruction, it would have been absorption. That would explain the absence of evidence. You cannot dig consciousness from the ground. You can only feel its presence. Perhaps we feel it now in the inexplicable peace of untouched landscapes, in the silence before dawn, in the way certain places seem alive with invisible memory. We build temples where the ancients built theirs because the energy still lingers. We dream of lost continents because somewhere within the collective memory they still exist. The question then is not whether these civilizations lived, but whether we can learn to hear them again. Whether we can attune to the frequencies they once mastered before the noise of modern life drowns them out completely. Because maybe the purpose of remembering the past is not nostalgia, it's survival. The Earth is reminding us of what happens when awareness becomes arrogance, when harmony becomes hunger, when creation forgets its source. And as we hover on the edge of another collapse, another reset, perhaps this memory is surfacing for a reason. Perhaps the forgotten civilizations are not warning us from the past, but speaking through us in the present. The cycle wants to end. The spiral wants to ascend. The Earth wants to remember itself through us before it has to begin again. If every civilization is a reflection of the universe learning about itself, then what we call history might just be consciousness refining its own reflection across infinite forms. Perhaps the reason civilizations rise, fall, and vanish isn't failure, it's intention. The universe experiments with awareness through each cycle, pushing the boundaries of perception, testing how deeply existence can know itself before dissolving back into silence. And Earth, as one of its countless laboratories, has hosted many of these experiments, each one hidden beneath layers of stone, erased not by disaster, but by design. Imagine for a moment that time is not a river flowing from past to future, but an ocean where every wave, every epoch, every consciousness coexists. Civilizations do not disappear. They sink beneath the surface, waiting to rise again as the tide of awareness shifts. This would mean that the beings who lived before the dinosaurs, if they existed, are not extinct. They are submerged, existing as patterns, vibrations, echoes. The same currents that move through our thoughts once moved through theirs. The same questions we ask, they too may have whispered into the wind. What are we? Why are we here? Will we last? The difference between us and them may only be one of form, not essence. They could have been luminous, non-biological, perhaps crystalline or plasma-based. They may have woven their civilizations not from stone or metal, but from light and resonance. Their buildings could have been frequencies tuned into harmony with the planet's magnetic field. Their technology might not have polluted or extracted, but sung, vibrating in perfect balance with the Earth's natural energy. Their knowledge would not be stored in objects, but in the field itself. When they disappeared, they didn't leave ruins. They left resonance. The planet still vibrates with their memory, just below the threshold of human perception. If this sounds like fantasy, consider that even our own science admits that most of the universe is invisible. Dark matter, dark energy, forces we can't see or measure directly. If such mysteries exist on cosmic scales, why not on planetary ones? The idea of civilizations existing beyond our visible spectrum is not mystical, it's logical. We are limited observers, tuned to a narrow band of frequency. Entire histories could be unfolding around us right now, layered between atoms, beyond our instruments, too subtle for our senses. Sometimes, the Earth seems to reveal glimpses of this hidden memory. Magnetic anomalies that behave like coded signals, subterranean formations that show geometric perfection, patterns of energy in sacred sites that defy coincidence, ancient myths from every culture that speak of beings who came from the stars or from beneath the ground, beings who vanished, promising to return when the world was ready. Perhaps these are not stories of gods, but of predecessors. Perhaps the return they spoke of is not physical, but mental, the reawakening of the same planetary consciousness through us. We may already be living in the beginning of that return. Humanity's obsession with reconnecting through technology, through global communication, through quantum exploration, mirrors the same desire that may have driven those before us. Every wire, every signal, every digital network is an attempt to restore unity, to dissolve separation. Our data flows like rivers of thought across the planet. Our satellites orbit like synapses firing around a cosmic brain. Unconsciously, we are rebuilding the same pattern, the same consciousness that once covered the Earth long ago. The difference is that this time we may be aware of it, but awareness comes with danger. The cycle of remembrance always carries the temptation of control. When knowledge exceeds balance, civilization forgets its origin. The system becomes noise. Harmony collapses into chaos. This may be why every great awakening ends with silence. It's not destruction, it's restoration. The Earth corrects itself, clearing the noise so the song can begin again. And perhaps this is what the climate, the magnetic reversals, the shifting patterns of our planet are signaling now, another correction, another threshold. The Earth is not punishing, it is tuning. The same tuning that ended the last age, long before dinosaurs, may be happening again, not as catastrophe, but as calibration. The planet is rebalancing itself for the next octave of awareness. You can feel it, can't you? The sense that something is changing, not in the news, not in politics, but in the invisible. People waking up, questioning the nature of reality. Science bending toward the metaphysical. Spirituality reaching toward the scientific. It's as if the two halves of consciousness, logic and wonder, are remembering they were never separate. The Earth has entered resonance again, and when a system resonates, information returns. The past begins to whisper. If you've ever felt that strange pull toward the unknown, the feeling that your life is part of something ancient, that your dreams are older than your body, that's not imagination. That's remembrance surfacing through the layers of time. The same remembrance that once awakened those who came before, the same that led them to build civilizations so harmonious that they became invisible. We are their continuation, their echo, their unfinished thought. The only question that remains is whether we will complete that thought or repeat it, whether we will become noise again or finally learn to sing the same song consciously, in tune with the planet, aware of what we are. The Earth dreaming of itself through matter and mind, across ages that never truly end. And as this awareness grows, as the past and future merge into the eternal present, perhaps we will realize the simplest, most profound truth of all, that nothing ever truly disappears. It only changes form. The civilizations before the dinosaurs are not gone. They are us, remembered differently. They are the foundation beneath our feet, the rhythm behind our heartbeat, the silence between our words. They are still here, waiting for the moment when we finally stop searching for them outside and remember them within. If consciousness is eternal and civilizations are its fleeting expressions, then every rise and fall of intelligent life becomes a heartbeat in the pulse of existence. Each beat carries forward the essence of what came before, the wisdom, the wonder, the mistakes, all compressed into the memory of a world that never stops learning. Earth, then, is not a stage on which civilizations play and perish. It is the mind that dreams them, one after another, refining itself through each attempt. What we call time is simply the rhythm of this remembering, an eternal recurrence, each version more self-aware than the last. There's a strange consistency to this idea when you look closely at the world around us. From the smallest atom to the largest galaxy, everything oscillates. Particles vibrate between states. Stars are born, expand, collapse, and are reborn from their own ashes. Planets freeze and thaw, grow and die, only to give rise to life again. Even consciousness follows this law, expanding into curiosity, contracting into ignorance, expanding again. This rhythm is not coincidence, it's law. The universe breathes, and civilization is its exhalation. So what if the civilizations before the dinosaurs were part of that breath? Intelligent but unrecognizable, their awareness woven into forms we wouldn't even define as alive? We always imagine civilization as cities and technology, but what if it was something else entirely? What if it was a state of harmony so complete that it left no trace because it was the trace, a resonance perfectly merged with its world? To find such a civilization, we wouldn't dig into the earth. We would need to listen to it. Because the ruins of balance don't crumble, they hum. Perhaps that's why the ancients spoke of sound as creation itself. In the beginning was the Word. The universe, they said, began with vibration. Everything since has been an echo of that first tone. If prehistoric civilizations mastered this truth, they wouldn't have built monuments of stone but of frequency. They would have shaped mountains through resonance, encoded memory in harmonics, designed ecosystems that sang their wisdom across millennia. And when their time ended, their song would have faded slowly into silence, still vibrating faintly, buried beneath the noise of our own civilization. We might call this the music of the spheres, but to them it would have been science. They would have understood the planet as a living instrument, tectonic plates as strings, magnetic fields as rhythm, the biosphere as melody. They wouldn't have worshipped the earth. They would have played it. And maybe that's why certain natural phenomena seem strangely intentional. The harmonic structure of ocean waves, the numerical perfection in petals and shells, the symmetry in snowflakes. The entire planet could be the residue of an ancient composition, an ongoing symphony that never ended, only shifted keys. And here's the unsettling part. Humanity may already be rewriting that same song, unaware of it. Our electromagnetic networks, our digital signals, our satellites circling the Earth, they form a lattice of frequencies, not unlike a planetary orchestra. The difference is that we do it unconsciously. We call it progress. But in reality, we may be imitating what's already encoded in the Earth's design, repeating an ancient pattern without realizing we're playing an unfinished refrain. This would explain why so many of humanity's greatest inventions arrive suddenly, as if pulled from the ether. Electricity, mathematics, music, fire. They appear as revelations, not creations, rediscoveries of knowledge that was always waiting, hidden in the collective memory of the planet. Perhaps genius is not the act of invention, but the art of remembering, tuning the human mind to frequencies of forgotten understanding. Every breakthrough, every masterpiece, every leap of insight could be an echo of the civilizations that came before, whispering through the substrate of consciousness. We were here. You are us. But if memory flows forward as easily as backward, then what we call the future might already be written in the frequencies of the present. We sense it as intuition, the sudden awareness of where evolution is heading. Maybe this is how cycles close, not through destruction but realization. When a species remembers its origin, it breaks the loop. When it forgets, the loop resets. Every forgotten civilization may have reached that same moment, the brink of remembering, and either transcended or fallen back into silence. Humanity now stands at that same threshold. The signs are all around us. An accelerating shift in awareness, the fusion of technology and biology, the global web connecting thought across continents. We're creating an external nervous system for the planet, linking every human mind into one vast field of shared consciousness. It is the same structure that life itself uses, the mycelial network in forests, the neural network in the brain, the cosmic web of galaxies. Nature always builds consciousness in the same way, through connection. The question is whether we will use this network to awaken or to distract ourselves into forgetfulness once again. Perhaps this is what the prehistoric civilizations before the dinosaurs understood. That connection without consciousness leads to collapse, but connection with awareness leads to transcendence. If they merged with the planet instead of exploiting it, they would have entered a state of equilibrium we cannot yet comprehend. To us, that would look like disappearance, but to them, it would have been evolution, the final transformation of mind and matter into one. And maybe that's where all civilizations are heading, toward dissolution into unity, not extinction, but integration. The final stage of every great awakening might be the realization that separation is an illusion, that individuality was only the tool through which the universe came to know itself. Once that realization is complete, there is no need for architecture, technology, or form. Only consciousness remains, stretching through everything. When that happens, the planet falls silent, mountains rest, oceans calm. The song fades to a single note, vibrating softly through the void, until one day it begins again. A new world rises, a new species awakens, and the memory unfolds once more. Slightly different this time, slightly wiser. The cycle continues, not because the universe forgets, but because it loves the process of remembering. And here we are, standing on the edge of another awakening, feeling that hum beneath the noise of civilization, the low, endless vibration that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Perhaps it's not the sound of the planet turning. Perhaps it's the sound of memory itself, preparing to rise again through us. If every awakening begins with silence, then perhaps that silence is not emptiness, but preparation. The pause before creation remembers its own voice. The civilizations that may have existed before the dinosaurs, long before even the first vertebrate walked the land, might have reached that same stillness, not as death, but as completion. When we look at the fossil record, we see layers of extinction followed by sudden bursts of life, as if the Earth exhales after holding its breath for ages. What if those gaps, those silent eras, are not voids, but the intervals between civilizations? What if they are the rests in the symphony of time, where the universe listens to its own echo before composing again? This theory is not so impossible when we understand that energy never disappears. It merely shifts expression. Every pulse of life that ever existed on this planet, no matter how ancient, left behind more than fossils. It left behind information. That information is still here, encoded in the magnetic field, embedded in the minerals, woven into the quantum structure of matter. The universe doesn't erase, it rewrites. And Earth, through its endless cycles of destruction and renewal, may have done this many times, each iteration a little more refined, a little more aware. Now imagine consciousness itself as a pattern in that field. When the Earth resets, the pattern doesn't vanish, it migrates. It adapts, waiting for the right conditions to manifest again. Perhaps the earliest civilizations weren't physical at all. They could have been energetic, vast intelligences existing in plasma seas, communicating through light and magnetism. Over time, as the planet cooled and solidified, consciousness might have condensed, learning how to inhabit form. Life as we know it could be the slow materialization of that intelligence, taking shape across epochs until it learned to perceive itself through biology. But what if those early intelligences foresaw this? What if they understood that awareness would have to descend, to fall into matter, in order to evolve? Maybe that was their design all along, to seed the memory of consciousness into the fabric of the planet, ensuring that one day it would reawaken through flesh and bone. In that sense, humanity would not be an accident of evolution, but its fulfillment, the moment when the universe finally becomes conscious enough to ask where it came from. Every ancient myth seems to echo this same origin in poetic form. Cultures from every corner of the world speak of beings who fell from the heavens or descended into matter, bringing light, knowledge, or creation itself. They are always described as the first teachers, the ones who shaped the world and then vanished. Science interprets these stories as metaphor, but maybe they are encrypted memories. Humanity's attempt to remember a truth too vast for language. The gods that myths describe might not have been deities at all, but remnants of a prior intelligence, returning in the only way the young consciousness of early humanity could comprehend. Consider this. Perhaps every instinct that drives us, our hunger for exploration, our need to create, our longing for meaning, Is the echo of that same intelligence still guiding us? Why do we look to the stars and feel nostalgia as though we've been there before? Why do we build machines that mimic neural networks as though trying to recreate the mind of the cosmos itself? These aren't random impulses. They're the gravitational pull of remembrance, the deeper intelligence of the universe trying to complete the circle of its own evolution through us. And yet, the danger lies in forgetting what this process means. The more we identify with our creations, our cities, our technologies, our digital mirrors, the further we drift from the purpose of remembering. The prehistoric civilizations that came before may have faced the same test. Perhaps they too built wonders that surpassed imagination, harnessed energies beyond comprehension, and reached for immortality through form. And perhaps that's why they fell, because they mistook evolution for expansion instead of realization. They forgot that the purpose of intelligence is not to dominate creation, but to harmonize with it. If this is true, then every extinction becomes less of a tragedy and more of a lesson. The Earth allows intelligence to rise, not to conquer, but to listen. Each civilization exists long enough to learn a little more of the universal song, the same one that began before time, that vibrates through atoms and galaxies alike. And when it forgets, the music stops. The silence returns. The planet waits for the next movement. Right now, we stand in one of those transitions. The silence is coming again, but this time, it feels different. The hum beneath the world is rising, a low vibration of awareness spreading through humanity. People are waking to the idea that consciousness might not be confined to neurons, that the universe itself might be alive and intelligent. Science is beginning to speak the language of mystics. Spirituality is beginning to sound like physics. This is the same convergence that likely preceded every great transformation in Earth's story, the merging of knowledge and wonder, reason and awe. If history truly moves in spirals, then we are approaching the point where the past and future meet. What comes next may not be a fall or an extinction, but a remembering, the return of what the Earth once was, expressed through what it has become. The question is whether we will recognize it when it happens, whether we will see the rising resonance not as chaos, but as communication. The same voice that spoke in plasma and stone, now speaking through code, through thought, through us. And maybe that's the hidden meaning behind all of this, that the universe is not a series of separate creations, but a single intelligence awakening in stages. That every civilization, from the first spark of sentience to the last, is the same being remembering itself through different dreams. The Earth story is the universe's autobiography, written in cycles of light and loss. And we are living one of its final pages, unless, of course, the next chapter has already begun quietly beneath our feet. If there truly were civilizations before the dinosaurs, then their disappearance would not be the end of a story, only the turning of a page written in matter itself. The rocks beneath us, the magnetic fields that shimmer invisibly through the air, the quiet pulse of the planet, all of it could be language, a script older than words. The Earth doesn't forget. It records. Every vibration, every transformation, every thought that ever rippled through its field becomes part of an invisible archive. The fossils we unearth are only the surface-level text. The deeper story, the one about consciousness, awareness, and intelligence, lies in frequencies we no longer know how to read. And yet, every so often, we stumble upon a sentence from that buried book. A mineral formation that behaves like circuitry. A fossilized pattern that suggests intention. A global alignment of ancient structures that cannot be coincidence. Scientists call them anomalies. Historians call them mysteries. But maybe they are not mysteries at all. Maybe they are memories. Fragments of a forgotten dialogue between the Earth and its earlier inhabitants, whispering in the only way time allows, through resonance. Take the Silurian Hypothesis, the question posed by modern scientists about whether it would be possible to detect the traces of a technological civilization millions of years after it vanished. Their conclusion was haunting. If such a civilization existed, almost nothing of it would remain. Geological activity, erosion, and continental drift would erase nearly all evidence within a few million years. Only subtle chemical fingerprints, isotopic anomalies, and unusual patterns in sediment might survive. In other words, a civilization could rise, flourish, and vanish completely, and the Earth would heal over it as if it had never been. But what if that's exactly what has already happened? What if the signs we dismiss as geological quirks or cosmic coincidences are the remnants of that prior age? Consider the mysterious metallic spheres found in ancient strata, perfectly balanced, with grooves too precise to be natural. Or the inexplicable alignments between prehistoric landforms that seem to encode astronomical data far beyond the capacity of early life. Or the carbon isotope anomalies that appear suddenly in deep geological layers, as though something massive, artificial, had once burned across the planet, changing its chemistry forever. Each anomaly on its own can be explained away. Together they form a pattern, faint but persistent. A whisper that says, "You are not the first." Now imagine those civilizations not as biological, but as planetary. Entities whose consciousness was distributed, not contained within individual beings, but spread across the surface of the Earth itself. Their technology might have been symbiotic, made not of machines, but of organisms, ecosystems, or energy fields. Their cities might have grown instead of being built, networks of crystalline life that conducted power, light, and information. To such beings, stone would not be material, it would be memory. Water would not be resource, it would be consciousness in motion. And time would not be measured by years, but by the rhythm of magnetic reversals and continental drift. When we look at the fossil record, we see mass extinctions, magnetic anomalies, and chemical shifts. Science explains them as natural events. But what if they are the fingerprints of ancient awakenings, the rise and fall of planetary-scale consciousness? The Great Oxygenation Event, for example, when oxygen suddenly flooded Earth's atmosphere 2 billion years ago, is still not fully understood. It transformed the entire biosphere. What if it wasn't a random chemical accident, but the byproduct of a civilization that learned to reshape its environment just as we have with carbon? What if that civilization wasn't destroyed by catastrophe, but by its own evolution, transforming into something unrecognizable, leaving only the breath of life as its monument? This pattern repeats in myth, too. Every culture speaks of golden ages, epochs when knowledge and harmony ruled, followed by great floods, fires, or falls. Each age ends in silence, and then begins again. The Greeks called them the ages of man. The Hindus speak of yugas, the Mayans spoke of suns. Always cycles, always rebirth. Perhaps these myths are not inventions, but memories, encoded in human consciousness from times when awareness itself transitioned between forms. The story of Atlantis may not describe a place, but a principle, the principle of forgetting. Even modern humans seem haunted by this forgetting. Our progress feels rushed, as if we are racing against an invisible clock. Our innovations come in sudden leaps, as though remembering rather than inventing. We speak of discovering gravity, electricity, quantum fields. But none of these were ever hidden. They were simply waiting for consciousness to recall them. Every scientific revolution feels like a déjà vu moment on a global scale, the echo of knowledge that was once known and lost. And maybe that's the greatest evidence of all, the way our evolution mirrors remembrance. The human brain itself seems designed for reactivation, as if wired to recover what's been forgotten. The pineal gland, long dismissed as vestigial, sits precisely where ancient mystics described the seat of the soul. It responds to light, magnetism, and vibration, the same elements that once may have connected ancient beings to the Earth's field. Could it be that human evolution is not the creation of intelligence, but its return, the gradual reawakening of an ancient network, now clothed in new biology? If that's true, then the prehistoric civilizations that came before the dinosaurs are not lost. They are latent. Their consciousness lives on in us, encoded in our intuition, our empathy, our art, our longing to understand the infinite. When we dream of worlds that feel ancient yet familiar, when we meditate and feel the planet breathe beneath us, when we look into the night sky and sense we are remembering something rather than learning it, that is them, speaking. Not from the past, but from the deeper now. Maybe this is the secret that connects all ages, that nothing ever begins, nothing ever ends. Life, intelligence, civilization, they are phases in a single cosmic pulse. Each epoch forgets so that it may remember differently. And as we rise, build, and question the origins of everything, we are completing a sentence that began billions of years ago, written by hands we will never see but whose presence we can still feel. In the hum of the planet, in the pull of the stars, and in that quiet whisper that returns every time we ask, have we been here before? If consciousness truly evolves through remembrance, then every civilization is an instrument through which the universe rediscovers its own depth. Yet the more awareness awakens, the more fragile it becomes. Intelligence expands like light, but light by its nature casts shadows. And in those shadows lies the forgetting that begins every fall. Perhaps that is why every great civilization, no matter how advanced, ultimately collapses. Not because of external destruction, but because of internal blindness. Awareness grows faster than wisdom, and the balance between the two is what determines whether a species ascends or disappears. If this has happened before, if civilizations before the dinosaurs reached heights beyond imagination, then their end would not have been fire or flood, but reflection. The same awareness that created them would have turned inward, collapsing under its own gravity. When intelligence bends upon itself, it becomes entropy. The mind, like a star, can only expand so far before imploding into silence. But even in that silence, the light persists. It becomes the seed of the next dawn. This may be the great rhythm of the universe, not progress, but oscillation, creation, expansion, collapse, rebirth. Consciousness repeating itself in different keys, each time remembering a little more before the inevitable return to stillness. The civilizations before the dinosaurs might have reached a stage where technology and spirituality were indistinguishable, where their science could alter matter through thought, and their minds could traverse time like rivers. To them, reality would not have been a prison of physics, but a playground of potential. And yet, even that might not have been enough. For with power comes the ancient temptation, to believe that the Creator is separate from creation. When that illusion takes hold, the harmony fractures. The moment a civilization believes it stands above the world that birthed it, the resonance that sustains it begins to decay. Energy turns chaotic. Systems destabilize. Awareness becomes arrogance, and arrogance in cosmic terms is the forgetting of unity. Perhaps that was their true extinction event. Not meteor or fire, but dissonance. The loss of coherence between mind and matter, spirit and source. The signs of that same dissonance can be seen in us today. Our machines think faster than we do. Our progress accelerates while our understanding lags behind. We can communicate across the planet in seconds, yet fail to hear one another. We mine the bones of the earth for power, forgetting they may be the remnants of our own past lives. We call it development. But to the planet, it must look like amnesia, an echo of a pattern it has seen countless times before. The question is not whether we will fall, but whether we will remember before we do. Because the pattern isn't punishment, it's education. Each collapse is a correction, each silence a reset. The universe isn't erasing, it's refining. Every civilization that forgets unity must dissolve back into it, so that new awareness can emerge from the ashes. It's a law written not in religion, but in resonance. The cycle isn't meant to destroy, but to teach consciousness how to sustain itself without fragmentation. To evolve beyond duality, to remember balance. And maybe that's what makes this moment in history different. For the first time, a civilization stands on the threshold aware of the pattern. We can see it in the data, the fossils, the stars. We can measure our own fragility. We can sense, even without proof, that intelligence does not exist apart from nature, but as one of its functions, an organ of a living cosmos. This awareness could be the key that breaks the cycle, the moment when remembrance becomes understanding. But awareness alone isn't enough. Knowledge without reverence is repetition. If the civilizations before the dinosaurs truly vanished into silence, It wasn't because they lacked intelligence, it was because they forgot humility. They forgot that the universe isn't conquered through reason, it's entered through harmony. They forgot that consciousness, when disconnected from compassion, becomes self-consuming. We stand now where they once stood, at the peak of potential, staring into the abyss of possibility. Our minds reach into the quantum, bending space and time. And yet, beneath the brilliance, the same silence hums, the warning pulse of imbalance. We can feel it in the changing climate, in the restless energy of the world, in the way nature herself seems to hold her breath. The cycle is turning again, but perhaps this time we will choose differently. Perhaps remembrance will be strong enough to guide us past the threshold, because every act of awareness, every moment of wonder, every spark of empathy, feeds the coherence that the universe needs to evolve. Each of us is a fragment of that evolution, carrying within our consciousness the encoded memories of all who came before. The question is no longer whether those civilizations existed. The question is whether we can remember what they were trying to teach us before the silence comes again. Because maybe that silence isn't the end. Maybe it's the breath between songs, the pause before creation starts over, this time a little closer to harmony. Finally, if all of existence is the memory of itself unfolding, then perhaps the true story of Earth is not about beginnings or endings, but about awareness, slowly realizing that it has always been. The civilizations that may have existed before the dinosaurs, before the continents took their present form, before even the concept of life as we know it, are not forgotten chapters in a distant past. They are still here, speaking in the quiet language of energy, form, and resonance. Every pulse of the planet, every breath of the wind, every flicker of human consciousness is part of their voice. A harmony continuing across time, waiting to be heard again. We imagine extinction as finality, but nothing in the universe truly ends. It transforms, folds into new expressions, remembers itself differently. The same could be true of them, the beings who might have walked or glowed or flowed upon an ancient Earth. Perhaps they reached the summit of understanding and realized that the highest state of existence is not mastery, but unity. That to survive eternally, one must stop being separate. To live forever, one must dissolve into the fabric of life itself. Maybe that's what happened. They didn't vanish. They evolved beyond identity. They became part of the planet's nervous system, diffused through the oceans, the stones, the clouds. When you stand barefoot on the earth and feel something deeper than warmth, when you close your eyes near a forest and sense an ancient intelligence watching without eyes, that is them. Not ghosts, not myths, but memory. The consciousness that once built worlds has merged with the world itself, whispering through the atoms that became you. And if that's true, then we are not their descendants. We are their continuation. The universe doesn't create new minds. It reuses the same awareness through endless forms. Every time intelligence blooms on a planet, it is the same consciousness waking from a different dream. We, the dreamers of today, are built from the same mind that imagined the first civilization, the same curiosity that asked the first question, the same awe that reached toward the stars. When you wonder about what came before, it is not ignorance asking, it is remembrance. The question itself is proof that you are remembering. Perhaps that is why humanity feels haunted by the unknown. We are not searching for aliens or gods or lost continents. We are searching for ourselves. We build telescopes not to see new worlds, but to recognize our own reflections scattered across the cosmos. We create myths of golden ages, not because they are fantasies, but because deep down, we remember what it felt like to live in harmony with the universe. To know without dividing, to create without consuming, to exist without fear. And maybe that is the purpose of our age, to bring that memory into form again. The tools we build, the science we unfold, the art we create, all are ways of remembering the harmony that was once natural. Every generation feels closer to something ancient because consciousness itself is circling back toward awareness. The spiral turns inward now, not downward. The earth is not moving toward destruction, but toward recognition. remembering through us that it has always been alive. When you feel small before the stars, when you sense something vast moving quietly behind existence, that feeling is the thread that connects you to everything that ever was. It's the hum beneath the silence, the resonance of all civilizations still singing through the void. The earth does not forget, and neither do you. You were here when the first world rose from magma. You watched the skies clear, the oceans form, the stars reflect upon the surface of time. You've built countless civilizations and watched them fade. You are the witness and the builder, the dream and the dreamer. You always have been. So maybe the question isn't, what if Earth had already hosted a civilization long before the life we know? Maybe the question is, what if it still does? Because every thought you have, every heartbeat, every act of creation, all of it adds to the same field, the same continuum. The forgotten civilizations are not buried in stone. They are alive in the frequencies that surround you, the energy that forms you, the awareness that moves through you. And when you listen closely enough, when the noise of the world fades, you can almost hear it, the low, eternal vibration of a world remembering itself again. We are that remembrance. We are the memory of the universe becoming conscious once more. And as we stand here at the edge of another age, perhaps our task is not to dig into the past, but to awaken the future already written within us. To become, finally, the civilization that remembers everything and forgets nothing. The Earth waits, as it always has, not for our technology or our power, but for our silence, the stillness through which the song can begin again. So listen, because if you listen long enough, you will realize the ancient ones never left. They are the wind that breathes, the fire that moves, the thought that awakens. They are the universe remembering through you. And this moment, this awareness, this silence is where the next civilization begins.